From having to get permission to get married to following a strict order of arrival in a room, here are some of the strict rules the royal family has to abide by. For one, they have to keep the PDA at a minimum. You won't catch the royals smooching or holding hands while they're out and about. Each person in the royal family is on the clock as a representative of the British monarchy, and they are expected to keep it professional. Now, you might be thinking, but what about Prince Charles and Princess Diana? They were always so affectionate. Well, that's because they were often caught on camera during more casual moments, like at sporting events. But when they were on official business, they knew they had to control the PDA. Plus, they've got to shake a ton of hands, so it's not exactly practical to be holding on to each other. If you think this rule is strange, wait till you hear the next one. You might think the royals are always being showered with gifts. But hold up, there are actually some pretty strict rules about what the royals can and can't accept. The official gift policy states the royals can't take anything that would make them feel like they owe something to the giver. So that means no accepting gifts that come with strings attached, people. The royals can accept presents in certain situations, like from charities and the armed forces. But mostly, the royals can only accept small gifts like flowers, food, and books. Oh, and don't even think about giving them something worth more than £150. And to keep stuff totally transparent, Buckingham Palace even releases a yearly list of all the official gifts the royals have received. Honestly, not accepting gifts sounds like some really stuck-up behavior, but it can't be more stuck-up than refusing to take selfies. If you are hoping to snap a selfie with a royal, you're out of luck. The royals typically decline photo requests. This is because they're usually out and about on official engagements and want to stay focused. Plus, it's probably not super professional to be stopping for pics every 5 minutes when you're working, right? Even Prince William, who's known for being a bit more laid back, has only taken a selfie with a fan once. And that was on Christmas Day, so he was feeling particularly festive. Prince Harry is particularly anti-selfie. Once, the prince even told a young fan to ditch the habit of taking selfies altogether. And even the Queen found it strange when she faced a sea of phones instead of people's faces. She once confided in ambassadors that she missed eye contact. She thought it was bad manners to be staring at a screen when you're meeting someone important. So if you're hoping to snap a selfie with a royal, maybe just stick to the classic photo instead. That rule was kind of silly, but there are some serious rules the royals have to follow, like having to pack an all-black outfit when leaving the country to go on a royal tour. It's a rule of royal protocol in case someone passes away while they're abroad. When someone in the royal family dies, everyone must wear black as a sign of respect. In 1992, Princess Diana and Prince Charles were skiing in the Alps when her father passed away. They made sure to wear black on their way back home to pay their respects. But not everyone has been able to follow this rule. Queen Elizabeth missed the memo once, and it cost her greatly. While she was on safari in Kenya with Prince Philip, her father, George VI, passed away. And because she didn't have a mourning outfit, she had to wait until one was brought to her before she could be photographed. Maybe that rule was a bit sensible, but the next one is just weird. Like, did you have any idea that technically, the King of England cannot vote in an election? Well, technically there's no law against it, but it's just not something that's typically done. You would think the most powerful man in the country would have a say in the election, right? Well, according to the UK Parliament, it's considered unconstitutional for the monarch to get involved in politics. The King's role in Parliament is to stay neutral and unbiased. He doesn't vote or run for office. That's also why you won't hear any royals sharing their political views in public. It's just not their place. Plus, there are rules in place to make sure that no monarch can use their power to influence political decisions. That's pretty interesting, right? But not as interesting as the fact that the royals need the monarch's permission to get married. It's true! The Royal Marriages Act of 1772 talks about it. It states that any senior royal who wants to tie the knot needs to get written permission from the monarch first. That means they can't just pop the question without getting the okay from the king. Once they have permission, the engagement is announced, usually with a fancy press briefing. And it's not just a formality either. If the monarch doesn't give their approval, the marriage won't be considered valid. That's why Prince William had to ask Queen Elizabeth for her permission before proposing to Kate Middleton. If she had said no, they wouldn't have been able to get married. Yikes! Oh, and there are a few other rules too. For example, royals aren't allowed to marry Catholics. Weird, I know, but there is a small loophole. If a royal is over the age of 25 and the monarch doesn't approve of the marriage, they can still get married as long as both houses of parliament don't object within a year. It would also have to be made official with a fancy schmancy document called the Instrument of Consent. It has calligraphy and a wax seal and everything. Talk about a fancy way to say, "We're getting hitched." Speaking of fancy, let's discuss some royal etiquette. Yep, I'm talking bowing and curtsying. When meeting the monarch, gentlemen should bow, while ladies should do a curtsy. Don't worry, it doesn't have to be a grand gesture. A slight bow or curtsy will do just fine. And did you know that the royal kids start learning this at age 5? Yup, that's right! By the age of 5, the only person they need to bow or curtsy to is the sovereign. Oh, and by the way, a royal highness doesn't need to curtsy to another royal highness. But when do you bow or curtsy then? Well, you do it when you first see the sovereign, and then again when you leave. This is all getting pretty confusing, and there's a reason for that. It's because there's an order of ranking they have to follow. So, when the royal family shows up to fancy events like Easter Sunday or weddings, they are required to arrive in a certain order based on how important they are. The more senior royals get to go last. That means the king is the final guest of honor. This stuff is all written down in an official document called The Precedents of the Royal Family to be Observed at Court. Sounds official, right? It was put together by Queen Elizabeth's private secretary in 2005. But even this rulebook had to be updated in 2012 after Kate Middleton joined the party. Just to make sure everyone knew she still had to curtsy to the blood princesses if Prince William wasn't around. Royal life sure does come with some interesting traditions, doesn't it? Well, those were some of the strict rules the royal family has to abide by.